This is Rowdy Radio, the podcast, the homeless podcast, and today we're doing a little crashing. We're crashing on the couch at out of the studio for good, so we're homeless. But now we're crashing on the couch. Like literally, you have a couch now at Aguas Marias here in Idaho Falls, Idaho. Yep. And is this Idaho Falls or is this Ammon?
It's considered Idaho Falls.
Is it still
on this side of the road?
Oh, okay. Yep. That's crazy. So the businesses on the other side are Ammon?
Ammon.
Those are all Ammon? That's crazy. But yeah, thanks for having the podcast here again, Maria.
Of course, as long as you don't bring a Ouija board.
We have a Ouija board.
Yeah,
we're going to be playing the Ouija board today.
I'm running it
I'd be out. I don't mess with that.
You don't?
No.
Why is everybody so scared of the Ouija board? That's what I don't understand.
Because it's legit scary.
It's not really. Like, it's just a board. Like, it's fucking like Monopoly or something, you know?
Not even the same thing.
I mean,
Monopoly.
Some people are afraid of microphones. So.
That's true. as we have come to realize. But Monopoly is a lot more realistic. Like, you can go to jail in real life.
Facts.
But you can't, like, talk to ghosts in real life.
I mean, you probably could. Just saying.
And we're jumping the gun a bit here. So we have some guests from 1614 Revival Foundation Incorporated. That's right. And we got your Angelica is your name?
Yeah.
Okay. And what was your name? Sorry.
I'm Nick.
Nick.
Yep.
Nick and Angelica. And we have you brought your whole team, just about your whole team, but they're all scared of microphones.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah.
Two decided not to participate.
Yeah.
So.
Which is, I don't know. It makes me feel some sort of way. I don't know about you. How do you feel about that, Maria?
I mean, they'll join in.
Like,
You put them on the spot.
They're moral support right now, but we'll get them involved.
yeah, they'll jump in, and you guys feel free to jump in at any time, also. But yeah, let's go ahead and talk about what you guys do. 1614 is that what are those numbers?
So 1614 comes from the Bible verse 1 Corinthians 16:14. Everything you do with love.
Okay. And it's Healing Matters. We are on a mission, not a job, is what it says on your Facebook page. We are a new domestic violence housing and transitioning center. So tell us exactly what all that entails, or at least what what the plans are for that.
So I think the main thing is it's a vision right now that we're getting started. We want to make sure that people in the eastern Idaho area have a resource to go to when there aren't other resources available. We've helped people personally that have gone through stuff that they didn't know where to go and they didn't have the resources available to them. And with Angelica starting this foundation, it was let's give resources to people that don't have it. Let's give them somewhere they can go, that they have people that are there to help them through this tough time. And that's really where it started, just from some personal stuff that we've kind of been through together, just making sure that people know there's resources.
Yeah. And so you guys go way back?
Yeah. So I worked at Verizon for almost 10 full years, and Nick was my boss for a good, 4 or 5 years?
Yeah, about 4 or 5 years. So.
And when you work with someone, your coworkers are like your other family. That's who knows everything that's going on in your personal life.
Yeah, I mean, you're with them more than you're with your own family sometimes. And so, we built a good connection, a good friendship. I'd almost put it as like a brother-sister type relationship. And, just always there to support each other. So,
yeah. That's cool. So how did this exactly come about then? Whose idea was it to start?
So it was mine. It was my vision, essentially. I went through 15 years of being mentally and physically abused.
How many years is it?
About 15.
15, wow.
Yeah. So about 15 it started. It started when I was about 14. So I was with them for a really good amount of time.
Those are real formative years where it probably became normalized for you.
Yeah. I mean, like, anybody that knows my story, I felt like it was just in me, and like I couldn't change it. Mm-hmm. And so, going through all of those years and being hurt all the time, and going to work and having bruises all over, like it's embarrassing and it's hard, but at the same time, it's like you're afraid to do anything. Yeah.
You
don't know any different.
Pretty much.
Yeah, that's rough, and that's the part you said embarrassing. I mean, because I've been through very similar situations where you're covering shit up at work, trying to make sure nobody looks at a certain side of your body because you've got something that, your significant other did to you.
Yeah, and it's hard because, like I said, I was at Verizon for a really long time, and so to have those bruises and like myself, I didn't know how to cover them, and so I'd have to have, coworkers pull me in the bathroom and help me try and cover them. But you can only cover a bruise so much because it's always going to bleed through.
Yeah.
And so to go out and deal with the public and them staring at you, like, it hits a different part in you, and you're just like constantly looking around, and it's just not something that's comfortable.
I remember I was at work once when I was still married, and I had this big old bruise on my neck from us fighting, and everybody thought it was a hickey. So everyone's trying to high five me, so I just went with it. But I was like, fuck, if you guys knew, man.
Yeah.
So it is embarrassing. So what made you finally leave that situation?
I got tired, and the older that my kids got, the more that they saw and the more that they heard. And I felt like as time went on, it got worse. But it gets to a certain point where that person that's hurting you, they are done, like, hurting you to the point where other people can see it. So you'll still have all the bruises and all the marks and stuff like that underneath where other people can't see. But I just got to the point where I got tired of my kids hearing that. And the last time it got super, super scary and super serious. And my son is the one that saved me on that one. And when I became conscious after the situation, hearing my son say, "Mom, I called the cops, I called my grandma, Dad's not here." And that's what hit for me, is because them realizing what they saw, I don't want them to think that that's okay to treat people that way. And in my head, it's like, well, what if I didn't wake up? What if that was the last moment? What if that's the last memory that my kids hear or see? And I had enough.
So you got knocked out. You were out.
Yeah.
And then when you came to, he took charge. Your son took charge.
Yeah, my son took charge.
Which is something that you as a parent, I think you never want your kids to have to take charge of a situation. No. That's like your job as a parent.
Yep.
Okay. And so that was the tipping point. That's when you decided to
Yep, leave. That was the tipping point for me, and that's when I was done.
Did you feel like you didn't know where to turn to?
I mean, there was times where I turned to our local community, going through the domestic violence center and everything like that. Like, you get to a point where you are free from it for a moment, but then you're like, you fall back into it because they say they're sorry. And so there was many times where I left, but then I ended up going right back.
Yeah, because he was going to change. He was going to be different.
I believed that he was going to change, and I believed everything. I was so gullible. But this last time, I made a promise to my kids, and I'm like, I will not ever put you guys through that, and I will not ever not be around. And so it was scary. I mean, I didn't know what to do, because at that time, it was the weekend. Most of the resources locally were closed. Yeah, you have the hotline, and yeah, they're there for you. But there comes a point where you don't feel safe no matter what you do, no matter where you go. Because, like I said, I was with him for 15 years, and so he knew everybody I talked to.
He knows everything about you, your every move.
And so I felt like I didn't know what to do. I didn't know where to go. Yeah. So I turned to my place of work, and they got me a hotel, and we took off. We got a hotel, and then the next morning, he ended up finding us. And that was super scary, because at the time, that hotel, they were aware of the situation, but he still found a way to come inside, and he ended up taking my kids.
Oh, wow.
And so I panicked, I got scared, but then, it's like you don't know what to do, because your mind's going 1,000 miles an hour, and you don't know what's happening, and you don't know where they are, and, their phones get turned off. Like, it's scary.
Okay. And so when he took the kids, that for a long period of time, or were you able to get them back?
No, I was able to get them back after, oh gosh, I don't even remember. It was only a few hours, but it felt like a really long time, because when you don't have contact with your children, you don't know where they're at.
Yeah, you start thinking the worst things.
Yeah, you don't know if they're safe, or you don't know, if they up and took off. Like, you don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, and so out of the people in here, because you've been in some similar situations, Maria, I know that. Have you guys ever been in a situation like that? No, you have. See, and I think, like, you meet Maria. Like, when I met you, I would have never guessed that. And throughout the time that we've known each other, we've gotten into a lot of the conversations like that, going over past stuff, and it's like, you don't know who all is going through that, and so it is very difficult. Like, I mean, even in a situation where like, oh, there's this lady hiding out in this hotel I work at. Now there's this dude that says it's the, kid's dad.
Yeah.
Yeah,
because, I mean, me and Maria, we went to school together, and there was a time where, we used to give her a ride home and stuff like that, and there was a weird, awkward moment one day when Maria was, like, asking questions, and I just, like, sat there in the car because I was too afraid to say something to her or, like, let her know that, like, I wasn't okay. So, I mean, me and Maria we go back a long time.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's the worst when people ask you questions and you don't want to, you feel like you can't give the real answer, so you don't know what the hell to say.
Yeah.
It is rough. Yeah. And so how long ago was all that went down?
Oh, gosh. I mean, I think I've been officially free from him for a little over 3 years.
Okay.
And our divorce took a while because, when there's kids involved and he fights you for everything, and he wanted 50-50, and he wanted all of these rights to the kids, and at the same time you're like, I don't want to give you anything.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like, he was a horrible person to me doesn't mean he was a horrible person to them.
Was he a pretty good dad?
He's still a pretty good dad.
Yeah.
When he wants to be. I mean, we all have our moments, but
yeah.
he's still a part of
he never
life.
like hit your kids or anything.
No,
that's good.
I think sometimes that's the hardest part that they're faced with is you are abused as a spouse, but you see how good they treat your children, and you're almost locked in of, well, at least he's taking care of my kids.
Yeah.
And sometimes, luckily, Angelica came to the fruition of, my kids are more important and they don't need to see what's going on. Because even though he was good to them, being bad to her in front of them was such a bad situation.
They're still seeing that.
Exactly.
Yeah. They're still seeing that violence. Like you said, normalizing it in themselves to when they grow up, they'll think it's okay to treat someone else, or they'll think it's normal to be treated that way.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, even now, like my 7-year-old, sometimes he's like, remember, Dad? Remember when you pushed my mom down the stairs? Like, he remembers some things, and it's like, I always tell my son, like, God has his time with Dad. Like, you don't need to remind your dad of what he did. Like, he'll have his moment where he'll remember everything. But it's hard because your children still remember that, no matter how hard you try to show them different.
So what you're doing now is transitioning people from that old life into what you have right now.
Yeah.
I'm assuming
so
a better life.
like I said, like Nick said, like our main goal is just to be an additional resource. Like we're not trying to take over the domestic violence center here or any of the resources that are currently here.
So you're going to work with them?
I would love to over time. Like, I would love to if they're willing to accept that. I mean, and some places have been super accepting, loving the fact that we're going to be an additional resource, but there's still some people that feel that we're a threat, and that is not my goal in any way, shape, or form. I do not want to be in competition with anybody. I just want to be an additional resource, because there's so many people out there that are terrified to go anywhere and do anything, and I would rather somebody see us and hear our story and relate to us and trust us for us to be able to help them out.
So what resources are you exactly offering right now then?
So right now, not a whole lot, because like I said, we're in our beginning phase. So we're waiting for grants to be approved for our building, and we have all these hopes and dreams that are going to come to life. We just have to wait. What
are those hopes and dreams though?
So essentially, we'll have our building where it'll be a resource. They'll be able to get counseling. They'll be able to, have pamphlets to be able to try and help them heal during the process. But our main thing is to be able to transition them, letting them know, like, hey, you went through something horrible, but it's not going to define who you are. Let's figure out who you are and how we can help you become better so you can get to the next step.
Kind of get to that next step and figure out what you're going to do.
I think some of the actual resources that we want to, kind of our vision we've talked about is we'd like to have a building to house them for a period of time. There will be restrictions, right? I mean, we're going to do drug testing and things like that. It's not just going to be a free-for-all. We're going to let anybody in the door. We're going to transition them from the abuse that they were in to counseling, like Angelica said, maybe some sort of work program, either at our office or at our facility, or if we can get them out in the community and get them there. We've been in talks with certain places about donating clothing, so we'll have clothes to give them. And then just to get them back on their feet. That's the hardest part when you transition from an abusive home, but you have somewhere to be, to nothing. Yeah. And we just want to be that help transition them back to a normal life without that abuse that they were going through.
And it's even that, it's like that, those little things like clothing. Because when you finally decide to break it off and go off on your own, a lot of times it's with nothing more than the clothes on your back.
Right. Yep.
Maybe what fits in your car, but really a lot of times it's just whatever you have with you. And so you need a place to clean up. You need a place to where you can change clothes.
Yeah.
We've even been in talks with some car places about maybe getting some like a van donated, or maybe our grant we can buy one. Then we can go pick them up even, because sometimes there's only one car, and if the individual that's the abuser is gone, how are they going to get out of the situation? Well, if we can come and get them out physically
and actually
get them to our
drive
facility,
them elsewhere, yeah. That's awesome. Those are awesome plans. So, and you're waiting on grants. You're already taking steps to do all this stuff.
Yeah. We have our grant writer. She's been phenomenal. She's been keeping us up to date with everything. And we've also working with Leo with LK Realty as well, and he's been helping us try to get our building.
Yeah. And so how'd you get Maria involved? What's your part in all this? Maria?
Well, I've known her for a really long time, since we were in high school.
Yeah, and then one day I came in here and I told her, I'm like, hey, like, I'm leaving Verizon. This is what I'm doing. And I would really love it if you could be a part of my board, because you have a story and you can help so many people. And I asked her if she would be a part of it. And
yeah,
she definitely jumped in.
You know, Maria's always just really funny on the show. So like in our personal talks, I know a lot of those really dark stories. You've never told any of that stuff on any of the shows that we've done.
Actually, right now when you're like, I would have never guessed that you went through that. The way you said it just reminded me of my daughter the other day. Angelica and I went to a movie. It Ends With Us, and we loved it so much.
Yeah, we cried like a baby.
Yes.
It was so good.
And we got matching tattoos.
Yeah.
Oh.
At the moment that we got matching tattoos, I didn't think anything more of like it means something to me. Mm-hmm. You know, it's very like a positive and strong thing for us to get, but I never like in my mind thought like it would affect my kids in any way. They don't really know my story of like I've been married twice.
Yeah.
The first time it was to a very abusive man in every single way you can think of. They don't know that man. They know their dad. There was abuse in certain ways with him. There's no physical abuse. But my daughter, when she asked, she's like, I had on a tank top and you could see my tattoo. They know every tattoo that I have. And when they saw that, they're like, oh, Mom, what is that? You got a new tattoo. And I said, yeah. And they're like, what is it? What does it say? And so I told them, and I was explaining, you know, the movie we watched. And my middle one says the same thing you just said. Like, I would have never guessed, like, the way you are so strong, that you were with an abusive man in the past.
So you would never talk to your kids about any of that stuff? I mean, they're still really young.
Like, they're too young for me to...
It's like they'll eventually know your whole story, I'm sure. But.
There's been a time or two where I'm talking to a friend or somebody and they overhear and they're like, what? You were married to somebody else? Like, no, you were married to my dad, you know? My son actually made a comment right as my daughter said that, like, I would have never guessed that you were married to somebody that abused you. Like, you're too strong to let that happen.
Yeah.
And that, like, touched me so much. Like, it made me cry to hear her say that, because to know your daughter looks up to you and, like, thinks that you're a strong person.
Thinks that you would never let something like that happen to you. That means she's growing up thinking she's not going to let any of that shit fly either.
Exactly. And my son said, well, good thing you never went through that with my dad. And I do not want to ruin
that relationship,
the vision of their dad to them. Obviously, like, he never physically hurt me, but he did a lot of things. And I had to say, like, mijo, physical abuse isn't the only type of abuse.
Yeah.
And you got to understand that one day. I'm not going to talk to you about it right now, but one day you'll understand it. And then, you know, the girls start saying, yeah, like, when they used to yell at each other, my dad used to be so mean to her. And, like, we're not going to talk about it, you know? And, like, you guys, I mean, you probably say that because you hear things, but we didn't let stuff like that happen in front of them. But the one time, you know, that I said, like, this is enough, the time I walked away and I said no more, because he made a comment to me and was loud, like, screamed my name, and he wanted me to go into the room, and he made an assumption that I was sleeping with the customer in front of my kids. And the way he said it, like, my kids aren't going to understand the verbiage. I'm like, when they grow up and they understand those words, they'll know that their dad was trying to say.
The first time someone says that around them and they know what it means, they're going to flash back to them.
Yeah.
Like, that's what he
And
means.
I was like, no more. I was already talking to him about the divorce. And that moment I was like, no, you need to get out. You're not coming back to my house. And yeah, that was it. Like, that was the moment that finally said no more. Like, the mental abuse stops right here. My girls are not going to think that this is okay to be treated that way, and my son's not going to think it's okay to treat somebody that way. So
That's awesome. I mean, that's awesome that you've taken those steps. And that's why, like, I've met you only, through your business and everything. So it's like, I never saw. Do you think, like, were you a different person back then? Were you,
absolutely.
like, shyer? Were you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was abused as a child with my parents my whole childhood.
Yeah.
So in order for me to leave my house, I left with an abusive man. That's how I got out.
It's a cycle, yeah.
Yeah.
It's a,
Yep. And so I left that abusive relationship with my parents and then went to a different one. I went to counseling. I did lots of things to heal. I went to a man that didn't abuse me physically, sexually, and financially, kind of. He didn't let me work, but he wasn't taking money away from me. And so I thought, this is okay. He's not cheating on me and he's not beating me, so it's okay. But it's just over the years you start realizing, like, this isn't okay either.
Yeah.
This isn't what I deserve. So the years go by and you get more educated, you learn things, and you just, you know what's acceptable and what's not.
Yeah. What about you? You ever been in an abusive relationship?
I haven't. No. I'm kind of a boring case, I guess.
Yeah.
I've been married to a wonderful woman for 24 years, and now, but I seen people you care about, like Angelica, be abused. Still affects you, right?
Yeah,
not to the level
time.
at all. I'm not saying that, but it still affects you emotionally, and to see what people go through. And I think that's why I want to get involved with this, not only to support Angelica and her cause, but to just get out in the community and let people know we're here to help.
Yeah.
And that's my biggest call, is we're here to help you any way we possibly can.
Yeah.
And that's the big thing.
Which is awesome. Yeah, I thought I didn't know you had a man on the team. Do you have other guys in your main team?
Yeah, so I have my cousin, Mike Santos, who's also a part of my board, and then Sisha's husband, Dylan, which is also
okay. That's good. That's good to see involvement from both sides like that.
Yeah, it's good to have both perspectives, because it's like you said too, like, males get, abused just as much. They're just not open about it because
It's like if
the
it's
world
embarrassing
these
for a lady, I think it's even more embarrassing for a guy.
man.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and we want to, that's another side of it that we want to go with, I mean, we're not strictly focused on the woman's side of things.
Yeah.
There's also a male side where they're going to need help too. Now, unfortunately, that's a weird way to say it, but women are more susceptible to it, right? But there are men out there that need help too.
Yeah.
And a lot of times they're just embarrassed to ask for it.
And it makes it a lot harder to get that help when you finally ask for it.
Yeah.
That was my experience, is calling the cops. They don't give a shit.
Right.
They'll tell you to just go back inside. She seems like she's calmed down now. You can go back inside.
Yeah, they're like, you're a guy, take care of
Yeah.
it.
And that's pretty much what they said. And it's like, the only way I could take care of it without your guys' help is like kicking her ass. I could kick her ass. I could beat the shit out of her. I could kill her with my bare hands. But that's going to get my kids taken away.
Right.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to even lay a finger on her.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and a lot of times, a guy, if you do, then you're instantly the guilty person,
you're the bad
even if
guy.
you're protecting yourself.
If she started it, it was her, the whole instigation. But you can slap her a little bit once.
Right.
That's it's me in the can.
Yep.
So, but yeah, that's good. So if someone is in these situations, then what's kind of the first step? Do they contact you? What do you recommend as far as?
So as soon as we're fully open, I mean, I've already gotten in touch with like the domestic violence hotline, and I'm already registered with them. So as soon as our building's up and running, I just call and say, hey, we're officially open. And so if people don't know our number and they call into that hotline, then the hotline knows that we are an option and a resource for them as well.
Okay.
I think our big message right now is talk.
Yeah.
Open your mouth, talk to people around you about your situation. That's the biggest thing, is people hold it in. And people around you are willing to help the best they can. As soon as Angelica came to us, not only did Verizon have resources, I'll commend them 100%. They had people you could call and do things like that, but we helped put her up in a hotel. We helped try to protect her. We banned him from coming on the premises. We did everything we could to protect, because she opened her mouth to us. And that's the big message, is right now, before we have our building established and everything running, open your mouth, talk to people.
Yeah.
That's the biggest thing.
And there's more help than you realize, I think. Once you open your mouth, then
Yeah.
it's when people come out of the woodwork.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which is awesome. So Verizon helped, like Verizon paid for that hotel and everything?
They didn't. We kind of out of our own pockets.
Okay.
But Verizon had a ton of resources. They had counselors you could call.
Okay, cool.
If it was bad, I'm sure they would have helped out to that level. When we worked there, it was, they do have great resources. I will commend them 100% on that.
That is awesome. Yeah, because you don't usually think of big corporations having a heart.
Right. Yeah, and they definitely did.
Yeah, they definitely did.
That's cool. That's cool. So you're having an event this Saturday.
Not
Is it
this Saturday. No,
it's September
21st.
21st. Yes, that's right.
Yep, September 21st is our first big charity. Well, I wouldn't say big, but it's our first charity event that we're going to throw.
Okay. So
it'll
what's
be here.
And it's going to be here at Aguas Marias. What's going to happen that night?
We're pretty much just going to kind of do what we're doing here. Just introduce ourselves in person for anybody that wants to come and, have support. We'll, have a spot open for us to be able to tell our story and be able to relate to so many people that are so quiet.
Mm-hmm.
Because, I mean, for me to open up after years and years and years of dealing with so much, like even being mentally abused, takes longer to heal than bruises, because bruises can go away and broken bones can heal, but being mentally abused sticks with you. I mean, I can't tell you, it took me years to be able to stop twitching with people just being around me.
Wow.
Like, people would just raise their arm to grab something at the store and I'd flinch, and it sucks. But there's so many females that have recently come to our attention in our inbox and just have opened up and asked for help. And so to be able to be that resource for them, to be able to help them and help them heal in their way, because there's no right or wrong way to heal. Everybody has a different story. Everybody has a different healing process. And so our job is just to be there for them and hear them out.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. So at the event, you guys are doing raffles?
Yeah.
Yes.
And so people are buying. That's where the fundraising.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And there's
so-
food, right?
Yep. So we're
We'll
going
have
to
drinks.
we'll have food, we'll have drinks, dessert as well. Savannah's going to make some desserts. But yeah, you basically just pay to come in and be able to enter into this raffle, which is super awesome. I don't think I've ever seen a raffle with so many cool, random,
What do you guys
great
have so far?
things. For the raffle?
Yeah.
We've got like a facial. We have a full body massage. We have gift cards. We have Maria's delicious gift card.
Aguas.
Yeah. What else do we have? Are you guys pulling
Permanent
it up?
jewelry.
Oh yeah, permanent jewelry, which is cool.
What's that? That's just stuff you can't take off?
Yeah.
Like
Like
the anklets.
yeah.
Like they don't have a.
They don't have
A
like you
class.
can't take it
Yeah,
off.
class.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
What were you gonna say? Oh yeah, somebody offered to do lawn care, which is really cool.
Yeah.
Especially going into fall, people need
Yeah.
that.
Nobody
Yeah.
wants
A
to
lot
do
of
their
wrecking
yard
leaves.
work. Yeah. Oh yeah, somebody's given a gift card for I think like a 30-minute session for photography, which is really really nice.
Yeah.
especially because the fall.
photography. And photography is expensive as hell.
Yeah, it
too,
is.
so.
Yep, we're gonna offer a cleaning service, so we have a lot of really cool things in there. We got a lot of people even still that are wanting to offer knitted blankets and just stuff like that. People, our community has come together so fast, and it's so nice to see.
Yeah. And so it's in September. It's
21st.
almost a month away, about 3 weeks away.
Yeah.
And so this will come out in time, of course, if anybody wants to donate more for the raffle. If anyone wants to support this cause in any way they can go ahead and contact you. Of course, you're on Facebook.
Yeah, we're on Facebook, Instagram. If you've seen our posts and our shares, that has a QR code or a link, and you guys can, if you can't make it to that event but you want to help out, like you can just click on that and it'll.
And follow them there. You have the business cards here at Aguas Marias, so when you come and get your Aguas Marias, pick up a card. It has a QR code, I believe, on it as
Yeah.
well. So,
Yeah.
so lots of ways to find you guys. So hopefully people start helping
Yeah.
with this.
Yeah, I actually have gotten a couple messages on Aguas Maria. Like, I think they seen my picture on her page and started asking me questions about this foundation, and even on my personal page. When she asked me, I'm like, yeah, this is really cool, because I know, like, I can relate to this, even though I feel like I have such a busy schedule. And I was like, I don't know how much I'm going to be able to help. And when we all met for pictures, I was like, I don't think I fit in here. Like, I don't even know what I'm going to be doing for them. I don't think I, like, am useful. And then, boom, like, something came up, and I was like, okay, you know what? I am part of this. I do belong here.
Yeah, recognizable face here in Idaho Falls. So I think it's like...
She's a celebrity.
So if anything, yeah, it was always good to have that celebrity spokesperson.
Yeah, well, I mean, so when I opened my business, I never, like... opened my business thinking like women are gonna look up to me as somebody that went through a whole bunch of stuff like to get out. I did it to help my kids and me, you know, financially. That's what it was for. But when I decided like I'm gonna make this a business, it was because my ex-husband, he would always put me down. I had this cash box. I tell the story. I made a whole bunch of women cry at the last 2 events I did at the Women's Business Center. And I had women go up to me and tell me like that because they saw me do it and get out and succeed, that it made them feel strong enough to leave too.
So.
And that they were working on it. And I was like, wow, like that wasn't my intention on my story. You know, I was just telling my story of what happened. Like I had this cash box. I went from having a shoe box to a cash box, and he said, what is that? And I said, what do you mean? It's a cash box. And he said, it's not like you're a big entrepreneur or anything. And I just looked away, and, you know, a tear fell down my face. And I'm like, what do you mean? Like, I'm helping you financially. I left my job so I could help, so I could stay home with the kids. It's 2020. The pandemic's happening. We can't afford to just be on one income. So here I am making these drinks, doing lemonade stands to help us financially and keep doing the sports for the kids. And that's all you can say to me instead of congratulations, you sold out, or thanks for helping me, honey. Nothing like that. It was putting me down. Mm-hmm. And so I said to myself that day, I'm going to show you.
Yeah.
And look, I have my trailer. I have a storefront. Everybody knows me in town. I have my own home that we all fit in. You know, I'm successful.
Yeah.
I am an entrepreneur.
Maria, I hate to tell you this, you fit in more than you think.
And that's that cash box story. You know what's great about that? It also does show that it's not all physical abuse, because that was the day you were riding high. You'd sold out. You were so excited and happy, and he just tore you down.
Yeah.
And so, but yeah, you are someone to look up to. I tell my daughters all the time. I always put like you and Mia over at the barbershop and Letty over here. I'm always like, they're all successful business owners and they're all Mexican ladies. And I always tell my daughters, just like you're a Mexican girl. You're going to do whatever the hell you want.
Yeah.
And so I think you're a good example. And I think that's why you do fit into this kind of situation.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I went through, like the physical, sexual, financial abuse as an 18-year-old.
Mm-hmm.
And then later, just mental abuse. And I mean, that's harder to get away from.
Yeah. Because
you can't prove it.
Yeah.
And it's hard to tell people and then to leave.
Yeah.
I mean, we watched that movie, and I've been on TikTok, and every time I scroll through TikTok, there's always something about that movie.
What movie? Who's in that movie? What's that movie about?
It's It Ends With Us, and it has
Blake.
Yeah, Blake Lively in it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. It's just about this girl that is in an abusive relationship, and it shows, all the triggers and the abuse and things like that. And I think it's like what Maria's point was, is that we love that movie so much that we tattooed it on ourselves.
Yeah. Because
it resonates with us. Everything. From the beginning to the end. Maria was constantly being like, that's me, I'm her. It hits you. But then it makes you realize, at the end, when she's talking to her daughter and, and she's telling her husband, what would you do if your daughter came to you and told you that she was being sexually abused, physically abused, hurt by her husband? What would you tell her to do? And the part that made us bawl is the fact that she said, it ends with us, staring at her daughter, basically saying, I'm not going to let you grow up to think that that's okay.
Yeah. You got to stop that cycle.
Because her dad did the same thing to her mom.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's that part right there that I watched a TikTok and it had over 200 million views, where this girl said that part right there when he said, I'm going to change, I'm going to get help. It's like, I would have taken him back. I would have taken him back.
Yeah.
And that hurt because I don't know, like, if it's a real story or not, but in this movie, it shows, you know, maybe 3 or 4 different situations where she went through.
Yeah.
How many did we go through?
Way too many.
Hundreds of
Yeah, way too
situations,
many.
you know? I remember in court with my ex-husband, the first one, his lawyer was the biggest asshole you could think of. He lawyered up good because I didn't press charges against him. The state did. I didn't talk to anybody at all. Nobody knew that I was going through this. My mom, she's not a single mom, but she raised us alone when we were in Mexico. She's a strong woman. And when she raised us, she raised me to be a strong woman too. So I always thought I was strong. I was too strong to let that happen to me. And so it was embarrassing for me to talk about it, say that he was abusing me in any way. So when I left, and then while I was up on the stand, the judge asked me, some questions. And then his lawyer came up and said, if you went through all of this, why didn't you tell anybody? And I looked at him and I said, why would I tell anybody? This is embarrassing.
Yeah.
The whole room went quiet. And the judge, no more questions. Like, he knew, like, that was enough.
That was a terrible question, too. Like, super
Yeah.
insensitive.
Yeah. And he made sure he wasn't allowed to ask no more questions after that question. And I didn't realize, like, it was such a powerful question. When I left there, the detective came to me and he gave me a hug. He's like, I'm so proud of you for saying that. And he's like, everybody in that room started crying when you said that. And I was like, I mean, that's literally how it felt. I would have never told anybody. How could I tell anybody that he stuck his whole hand inside of me to make sure I wasn't pregnant? He told me he was going to kill me because he thought he got me pregnant. And he was trying to take any semen out of me. How can I tell anybody that because I wouldn't sexually please him, that he would punch me and throw me on the floor? And then when I'd be crying, he'd stick socks, dirty socks in my mouth to keep me shut. Or when he would get mad at me because I wasn't talking to him because I was upset about things he would do, he would slam me against the window or drag me down the street in the rain. Like, how do you tell somebody those things? They would take you away.
Yeah.
They would drag you out if you told them those things are happening to you.
I feel like it would get, like in my situation, it gets worse. Like, you don't think that you're scared to tell anybody anything because it's gonna get worse. If somebody's told something about what happened, like, it always makes its way back. So that's why most of us are so terrified to leave, is because, well, we know what's gonna happen when we go home. You know how many times I would get closer to getting off my shift and I knew I was going to be late, how terrified I was and how I paced, because if I didn't get off at that specific time, he would literally be waiting outside my work to make sure that I was not messing around, that I was doing my job. It sucks. Like, and then even when I finally left, like, to see him driving around up and down the street, parked across the parking lot, like, it's hard to have your boss go walk you out to your car because you're afraid to go out there by yourself.
Yeah.
He would randomly just drive by
And
the
so
storefront
it's like,
all
it's
the
like
time.
to Maria's point, it's like we didn't say anything because we were terrified.
And when you don't have support also, like, I had no support from family at all. When I tried once to go out to my parents and say, hey, like, this is what's happening, I'm going to leave, they said, no, you need to work it out. You decided to marry him, you stay there.
Yeah.
And I had no children with him. I went 3 times to the ER for pain from the sexual abuse. There was cuts. And they would make him get out. And they would say, hey, is he abusing you? Is there anything going on? How can I say anything to them? Like, what were they going to do? Where were they going to take me? I didn't know where I was going to go. Like, when he finds me, I mean, he had already told me many times, you ever say anything, I'm going to kill you. Mm-hmm. You ever say anything, I'm going to make your parents get deported. I'm going to have your little brothers get deported. You'll never see them again. I'll kill you. I will kill anybody that you're with after me. Mm-hmm. You're terrified. They tell you like how they're going to kill you physically. We went on a date on a hike one time, and we were in the river. Like, it was such, I love rivers. It was so beautiful. We were just walking. We're driving home, and he said, if I ever wanted to kill you, I would cut you into so many small pieces, tie you to a rope, to a rock, and then make it sink to the bottom of that river so that all the fishes can eat your flesh, and they'll never find a piece of you.
Fucking gruesome. Whatever happened to that guy? He's still around?
Disappeared.
The charming gentleman.
He deserves to be in the river.
Yeah.
Man.
My mom has a mental illness as well, and so he said, I'm going to make you think you're crazy because your mom's crazy.
Just like your mom.
Yep. And make you overdose on pills, and they'll never know that I did that to you.
Yeah.
They'll think that you did it by yourself.
Yeah.
He had all these ways he was going to kill me. So to get out of there.
What's crazy is hearing these stories, right? Like, it hurts you in the soul. It hurts you in the pit of your stomach. But you guys are huge success stories. And that's what this foundation is about, is you two, right? And it does end with us. And that's what our mission statement can be. You know, get these women and men out of these situations that you guys were faced with, who will be turned your lives around, huge success stories. And we can be the end for them, where we stop that. And I commend you guys for sharing this. This is very powerful, so thank you.
And it can't be easy to talk about it, you know. But and that's why it's important to the whole ends with us, like it, because I think, and you know, this is me going out on a limb. I might be wrong, but the only thing worse than you experiencing that would be you watching your daughters experience that.
Exactly.
So that's why it has to stop right now.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean,
Yep.
hence my 12-year-old daughter, she refuses to talk to any person. She used to be super fun and smile and laughing and let me do her hair, and now she's not. She's completely different. Like, you don't realize the effect that it has on your children until it's too late.
It's too late. They're already. It's been affected.
Yeah, absolutely. And she won't talk to any male, whether it's family related or not, until I'm like, hey, like, they're okay. This is your family. Like, I'm right here with you. Like, it's okay. And then she'll start opening up. But I mean, nobody talks about once you leave the effect that it has.
Yeah.
The healing game that it has. Like, it's a roller coaster, because then you go through this phase like, well, now that I'm a little bit better, I wonder if it'll be better if I went back. Or, you know, you look back at your pictures and you're like, wow, there was parts of it that were really good.
Mm-hmm.
But I heard this saying this morning where it basically said, you can do 100 right things, 100 laughs, but 5 crying sessions makes all of those hundreds disappear.
Yeah.
And that's all you're focused on. Nobody talks about that. Nobody says it's going to be easy and it's hard. It's a hard healing process. And that's why it's so important that we're doing what we're doing, is because we want to be able to help transition all these individuals that are suffering and don't know how to heal. I mean, I'm not 100% healed. I mean, there's still times where I doubt myself.
Yeah.
There's still times where I feel like I deserved what I got because it was embedded in me for so long that I deserved to get hurt. And I don't want to put that on anybody else, and I don't want anybody to ever feel like they deserve to be name called and that they deserve to feel any less than what they are. So that's why my main focus is transition, is because it's so important. You know how many people commit suicide or go crazy because they honestly feel like they're nothing but what that person said they were.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I hope people listening to this, you know, if they're going through any of this, and they're going to realize a lot of these patterns that happen, like, in every situation is different, obviously, but it's also like a lot of the same stuff. Like when you're talking about your ex-husband driving past your work and all that stuff, like, I never even thought of that. And I remember my dad doing that to my mom all the time. Mm-hmm. Then when they separated, he did it even worse. It started up even worse. Yeah. Where he would randomly show up, or you'd see him drive by all slow looking out his window. Yeah. So it's like those patterns are there. So someone out there listening to this that might be in a similar situation, they might be going through the exact same, you know, patterns.
Yeah. And the message there, like we kind of talked about earlier, open your mouth.
Yeah.
Talk to people around you. There are people that love you and care about you. and get them involved, because they will help you get out. And don't let those small patterns turn into something huge. You know, like I said, we have 2 wonderful success stories here, but how many aren't successful? Right?
Yeah, we just had a local lady pass away, a few days ago, right?
Yeah.
Her husband shot her.
No. Oh, yeah,
It
yeah,
just
yeah.
happened.
So,
It was on East Idaho News. And it's
Yeah.
local. I mean, I think American Falls did such a great job taking care of me and making sure that I was okay a whole year after the whole thing happened, because they had one of their officers, same thing happened to her. She didn't talk about it, and the day she talked about it, she ran away to a different city. He showed up over there, and as she opened the door, shot her and killed her.
that's some Michael Myers shit, man.
No
Yeah.
kidding.
Just following you around everywhere.
Yeah. And so they are so like focused on this domestic violence in American Falls, so they make sure they're taking care of, you know, anybody that comes into their
Facility.
facility, and they make sure that they do everything they can.
So
I
there
mean-
are, it's like we said, you just have to speak up wherever you are.
Yep.
Yeah.
You know, if people listen to this that are not in our area here in Southeast Idaho, you just got to speak up. And if you're not speak up, you're not going to be aware of what resources you have or what resources are lacking. In
And
your
just
area.
because you get turned down maybe once or twice, it doesn't mean that there's not other better resources out there too.
Yeah.
Because I know, I mean, not that I personally went through that, but I know there's other people that have, well, nobody helped me.
Yeah.
Well, nobody got me out of there. And like, it's okay to leave. It's okay to get out. And you're going to struggle. It is a struggle. You know, not all stories are successful right away. It takes some time to get back up there. I mean, and it's don't feel like you're failing because you don't leave on the first time.
Yeah.
You know, it took me with my ex-husband, with my kids, 5 years to leave. I know I knew I wanted to leave 5 years ago, you know, and it took 5 years to finally, you know what, this is it. Like, no more.
Yeah, and like I tell people, like I try to post as much as I can, but right now where we're in our beginning stages and we haven't got our building yet and we haven't landed on that yet, like we're still a resource for you to be able to come talk to us, to tell your story so that you can confide in somebody like that. Because to be able to open up, like it took me, I barely posted what I went through a year ago.
I had no idea.
And
I
there's
had no
so
idea.
many people. I mean, growing up since I was 14 and being with them for so long, we had the same friends. Nobody knew. Yeah, they saw the bruises, but they didn't dare ask any questions. Like, we used to autocross, and I loved it with everything, every passion in me. I loved it, but it got to the point where one time I did something wrong, apparently, when I was autocrossing, and I got hit for it, and how much I shook, and I couldn't drive after that. Like, I wasn't okay. Like, I was hurt, and one girl in specific, we're still friends to this day, like, she was just like, he hurt you, didn't he? And I just started bawling. I was like, can you just take me home? And to be able to leave and not finish that race, like, it hurt me. And then to know that she knew about it, and knowing that she was going to say something, I was scared. Like, the second I got home, I was just like, I don't want to be here anymore, never mind. Because I was just waiting and waiting and waiting for him to come busting through that door and to hurt me because I opened my mouth.
Yeah.
Like, it's not fun. So I want our pages to be able to be a safe place for women to be able to talk about it, because to be able to hold that inside, I feel like sometimes that makes it worse, because then you're talking yourself down and you're breaking yourself apart, and then you're believing everything that they tell you that you are, male or female. Like, you're believing what your partner told you. You believe every bad word that they said about you. You believe that you deserve to get hurt, and I don't want that for people. Like, I went through it. Maria went through it. Like, there's so many people that have gone through it. And I don't know why, but I just can't. I don't want anybody to get hurt like that. I just can't do
And
it.
there's people that love you. There's even people that don't even know you that much. I remember that was the one thing that always kept me there with my first ex-husband. He would say, not even your parents love you.
Yeah.
I love you. I'm the only one that loves you, and I'm the only one that's ever going to love you like that.
Yeah.
Nobody's going to love you.
Yep.
So,
I remember, like, when my mom passed away in 2012, and I remember the last few months that she was alive. Like, I think I was more involved in her life at that point, because once I got with him, like, I wasn't allowed to see my mom. I wasn't allowed to go see any family because It just wasn't good enough, I guess. And so the last few months that my mom was alive was probably the best. And when she passed away, like, I blamed him, and there was points where I caused a fight because I didn't want to be around. I didn't want to live. I just wanted to be away from him, and that was the only way that I could think of at the time, was I just want to be with my mom. And I blamed him for like a year, blaming him. He had nothing to do with it, but there was points where I would cause that fight because I wanted to get knocked out so bad so that I could just see my mom one last time. And I don't want anybody to have to go through that, because it sucks to feel like you're by yourself, even though I wasn't, like, to feel like I didn't have anybody. I know that there's so many people out there that don't want to open up because they feel like they're going to get judged. We're not going to judge you. We went through things too that, you know, even sometimes when me and Maria talk, like, we end up telling stories and I'm like, wow, I didn't know that about you. Or she'll be like, oh my gosh, you went through that. Like, our pages are to be able to be a free zone for people to talk about it. Like, nobody's going to go around and say, oh, you know, Sally said this about you. Like, it's a safe zone. So I want people to be able to come to us, even if it's just a simple message saying, hey, I just want to talk to somebody. I don't want you to reply. Like, I just need to tell somebody, because we'll listen. We will 100% listen. Yeah.
That's good. I mean, step one, I think, just get it out there.
Mm-hmm.
Get it talking. A lot of times when you say stuff out loud, even you realize
Yeah.
a lot of your solutions, or at least options.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I still get messages to this day about, you know, my reel that I made that came out that I made last year about everything that I went through. I still get messages from females these days that are like, you know what? Because of you, like, I had the courage to leave, and I'm in a different state now. Or they'll be like, my cousin, I haven't seen her in a really long time, and I saw her a few months ago, and she gave me the biggest hug, and I'm like, oh, this is great. Like, and then she started crying, and I'm like, oh no, are you okay? And she was just like, I am 6 months free from the person that physically abused me.
Wow.
And she was like, and it was because I saw your story and you spent so long. And she's like, and I remember telling my mom, like, hey, I didn't know Angelica was getting hurt. Did you? Nobody knew, because I kept it to myself. And so you don't know how much your story can change somebody's life. You don't know how many people you can save unless you open up. But open up in a safe space before you make it public if it makes you feel better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that must have been difficult to even post that. So
it was. I went through and I made it, and then I got ready to post it, and then I stopped myself, and then I would delete it, and then I would do it again. It probably took me a long time, and it got to a point where I submitted that. I submitted it, and then I turned my phone off because I was so scared. Because at the time, like, I mean, even still to this day, there's a lot of, my ex-husband's friends that still follow my page. Yeah. And they would always be like, oh, Angelica just said this, or Angelica just posted this. I had at least like 20 shares in that. Well, when I finally turned my phone on, I had like 20 shares. And then I got blown up really bad by him. And he was like, why would you post that? Like, why would you throw our life out there like that? Like, everybody knows it's me that you're talking about. Like, we have the same friends and la, 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 la. And I'm like, it comes to the point where I'm like, if you don't want to be honest with what you did, then that's on you. Yeah. I'm not going to continue to hide what you did to me for as long as you did to me to make you look better. Like, I'm not going to do it. And he's like, well, you're hurting my image. And I'm like, and what about mine? Yeah. You know how long it took me to try to even forgive you? And it got to the point where I'm like, I'm tired of being angry, and I'm tired of, like, you being on top of the world and I'm still at the bottom, because I don't know why he's in denial of it. I mean, he says he's not anymore. He says that he's more honest about it now, but it's like, why would you ask me to lie? Yeah. Because it makes you feel better. But what about all the times where you hurt me? What about the time when my ribs got pushed out of place? Like, where was your caring then?
Well, and I think it's amazing that comment, you're going to ruin my image.
Yeah.
You ruined your own image.
Yeah.
That's on you, yeah.
With my counseling, when I started going to counseling, that is one thing that it took months for me to work on. My ex was going through medical school. And for me to go to court, and get a restraining order, The state pressed charges. I had all the bruises to prove it. I didn't want to press charges, so he was not allowed to be in the medical field any longer. And when I went to my counselor, I'm like, I just feel so bad for him. Like, he's never going to be able to be a doctor, and that was his life goal dream. And she said, Maria, he ruined that for himself. You cannot blame yourself for what he did. Right. He knew what he was doing. And it wasn't until she said, imagine if you had a kid and you were taking him to that doctor, and then you found out that doctor was abusing his wife or his children. Would you like to take your kid to that doctor still? And I said, no. Right. So why would you allow him to be a doctor? They said, you're right. And it's not my fault. Yeah. It's not my fault that he ruined it for himself. I
think that goes back to like all the psychological, warfare that goes on in anybody that's a part of a domestic situation, is that you backtrack and you're like, you feel bad. And you're like, well, why am I feeling bad? But it's just the circle. It's just like the circle where you go back and you're like, oh, maybe I should help him out, but then it's just like, no, I'm not going to do that. But it takes a long time for you to get to that point where you're like, you know what? No, like, I'm not doing that for you.
Yeah. And then he came back and said, I tried to commit suicide because you left me. And he actually left the States. He is half Hispanic, half Caucasian. So he never was raised Mexican at all. His dad sent him to Mexico to run away from the problem. No. He learned how to speak Spanish over there. He was gone for 2 years. So when he came back, I don't know what my point was. Sorry. But, yeah, he came back and, like, he could speak Spanish and everything now. But, like, he did it to get away. But that was his thing. Oh, I left because I was trying to commit suicide because you ruined my life. And you left me and you ruined my life. And everybody's going to hate me in town.
Jeez.
So once it came to fruition, what he did, he tried to be the victim at that point.
Yeah.
They tried to turn it around.
And so I started feeling bad, like, oh my gosh, he tried to commit suicide because I left,
Yeah, like I did this too.
Yeah.
It almost worked.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's horrible.
It's very bad manipulation.
Yeah.
But, we're coming up on an hour on this. Want to, keep it pretty short, but I definitely want to have you guys back on later on. Once you have stuff more built, we'll get into a lot more of these conversations for sure. Definitely, I'm glad that you're a part of this, Maria, and that you brought this to my attention also, just so we can get this on the show so all 7 of our listeners can be made aware.
7.
Well, 8 now.
It's not just 142 followers. Hopefully more after this one.
So yeah, and so I'll go ahead and link all your pages on the episode and everything. So so anybody that needs to can reach out to you guys. But I mean, as we leave now, I don't know, any parting words from you guys, from Angelica?
I mean, no. Just besides the fact that you can trust us, we're not. It's like our slogan is like, we're not doing a job. We're on a mission to save as many people as we absolutely can.
Yeah. I like that. It's not a job.
It's a mission.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's cool. Well, thanks for coming on. Thanks for lending us the spot here, Maria, again, for the homeless podcast that is Rowdy Radio. Again, at the end of this show, if anybody wants to let me use the spot for free, I promise I won't bring a Ouija board around. And we'll, but other than that, thanks a lot, and we'll see you guys on the next one.